She was 19 years old when she decided she was going to change medicine forever. She dropped out of Stanford. She started a company. And within a decade, she had convinced some of the most powerful people on Earth, generals, senators, billionaires, and former secretaries of state, that she had done exactly that. Her name was Elizabeth Holmes. Her company was called Theranos, and the technology she claimed to have built was, on paper, nothing short of miraculous. A device small enough to sit on a countertop that could run over 200 medical tests detecting cancer, diabetes, infections, hormonal imbalances from a single drop of blood taken from a finger prick. No needles, no labs, no waiting days for results. Just one tiny drop, and within minutes, answers that could save your life. Walgreens put her machines in their stores. The United States military explored using her technology on the battlefield. The Department of Defense took meetings. Patients in Arizona and California trusted her results with their health decisions. Forbes named her the youngest female self-made billionaire in American history. Her net worth was estimated at $4.5 billion. Time magazine put her on their most influential people list. There was only one problem. The technology didn't work. The story of Theranos is not simply a story about fraud. Fraud happens every day. What makes Theranos different, what makes it genuinely disturbing, is the scale of the belief it generated. This was not a back-alley con. This was a deception that penetrated the highest levels of American business, government, and medicine simultaneously. And it did so because Elizabeth Holmes understood something most people don't, that in Silicon Valley, the most valuable currency is not a product. It is a story. She had the story. She had the voice, literally, a deep, unnaturally low baritone she had trained herself to use in professional settings. She had the look, the pitch, the eye contact, the mythology. She had cultivated a persona so convincing that even when serious red flags began to appear, the people around her found ways to explain them away. And behind the scenes, she had Ramesh Balwani, known as Sonny, her secret partner in life and in the company. A man a decade and a half older than her, who served as president of Theranos, and whose role in the fraud would become one of the darkest subplots in the entire story. The girl who wanted to be the next Jobs. Elizabeth Holmes grew up in Washington, D.C., the daughter of a government official, in a family that placed enormous weight on achievement and legacy. From a young age, she was obsessed with the idea of greatness, not just success, but history-altering, civilization-shifting greatness. In high school, she reportedly told her parents she wanted to be a billionaire. Not wealthy, a billionaire specifically. She enrolled at Stanford to study chemical engineering and immediately began telling her professors she had an idea that would transform healthcare. The idea, even then, was the same. A patch. A device. Something that could analyze the body's chemistry continuously and non-invasively, removing the friction and fear from medical testing. One of her professors, Channing Robertson, became an early and enthusiastic believer. He later joined Theranos' board. This pattern, Holmes identifying a respected elder, earning their trust and converting them into advocates, would repeat itself throughout the company's history with almost mechanical precision. She left Stanford after her freshman year, using her tuition money to fund the earliest version of what would become Theranos. She was 19. She had no degree. She had a vision, an almost supernatural confidence, and the ability to make every person she spoke to feel like they were standing at the edge of history. That ability would carry her much further than any technology ever could. The Board of Legends and the secret it kept. The board of directors that Elizabeth Holmes assembled at Theranos was, by any measure, extraordinary. George Shultz, former Secretary of State under Ronald Reagan. Henry Kissinger, one of the most powerful foreign policy figures in American history. James Mattis, the retired Marine general who would later serve as Secretary of Defense. William Perry, former Secretary of Defense. 2 former United States senators. What is striking about this list is what it does not contain. Medical professionals. Scientists. People with any expertise in diagnostics, chemistry, or laboratory medicine. The board that was supposed to oversee Theranos had almost no one on it capable of evaluating whether the technology actually worked. This was not an accident. Holmes had structured the company to make scrutiny nearly impossible. Employees worked in silos, compartmentalized from one another. Non-disclosure agreements were aggressive and legally terrifying. The culture of secrecy was so intense that many employees didn't know what was happening in the department next to theirs. And the technology itself, the Edison machine, as it was called, was kept behind closed doors. Investors were shown demonstrations, but never given full access. Partners were told the specifics were proprietary. The FTA regulatory process was navigated with extreme care, and investigators would later allege considerable deception, but something else was happening inside those walls. Something that the board, the investors, and the public had no idea about. The tests weren't running on Edison at all. The machine behind the curtain. This is the part that takes a moment to fully absorb. Theranos had told the world and told its partners, including Walgreens, that its proprietary device could run a comprehensive panel of blood tests from a single finger prick sample. That was the product. That was the revolution. But in reality, the Edison device could reliably run only a small number of tests. For the majority of tests it offered to patients, Theranos was using conventional third-party laboratory machines, the same machines available to any standard medical lab. And those machines required more blood than a finger prick could provide. So Theranos was diluting patient samples to make them fit the machines, a process that introduced significant errors into the results. Patients in Walgreens locations across Arizona and California were receiving results from diluted samples run on conventional machines, presented as if they had come from the revolutionary Edison technology they had been told about. Some of those results were wrong. Not slightly off wrong in ways that flagged serious conditions that didn't exist, or failed to flag conditions that did. Employees who raised concerns were silenced, sidelined, or forced out under legal threat. One laboratory director resigned after expressing alarm about the accuracy of results. Others internally flagged errors and were told to keep quiet. The few who tried to go outside the company faced the full weight of Theranos' legal team. Then a young man named Tyler Schultz, grandson of board member George Schultz, decided he couldn't stay silent anymore. The whistleblower and the Wall Street Journal. Tyler Schultz had joined Theranos as a young employee, partly because of his grandfather's connection to the company. He believed in what they were building, but what he saw on the inside eroded that belief quickly. He witnessed results that didn't make sense. He flagged them internally and was dismissed. He became convinced that the company was knowingly delivering inaccurate tests to real patients. The experience of trying to report wrongdoing from inside Theranos was, by his own description, one of the most frightening of his life. The company's lawyers came after him personally. They pressured his grandfather to pressure. They deployed private investigators. They made clear, through every legal and personal channel available, that the cost of speaking would be enormous. He spoke anyway. He made contact, eventually, with Wall Street Journal reporter John Carreyrou. What followed was one of the most important pieces of investigative journalism in modern business history.